Welcome to Leaders of the West, a podcast for innovators and changemakers. I'm your host, Jessie Jarvis, the founder of the West, and I'm sitting down with agriculturalists, entrepreneurs, executives, and everyone in between with the goal of digging into the strategies, mindsets, and lessons that have been crucial to the success of ag and Western. Whether you're carrying on the next generation of your family's operation, starting something from scratch, or determined to climb up the leadership ladder, we're going to inspire you to continue to dream big, growing not just you, but the future of agriculture and Western as a whole. Let's go. In the last few weeks, I've gotten some questions from employers asking how Of the West works, the cost, etc. So I want to take a second to break that down real quick. Pricing is a big deal, and we've worked really hard to make our listings affordable for everyone, from those of you who are one man or woman show to those businesses who are hiring at all times. So first things first, our basic listing. This is priced at $79. The basic listing is as it sounds. Your job is listed on the site and is found by job seekers who are searching for roles like yours. Next up, we have our pro job listing. This option is priced at $99. It's a 45-day listing, as all listings are. You can shorten them as needed with your specific closing date, but if you don't have a closing date, it'll sit on the platform for 45 days. This option also means that your job will be shared across all of our social accounts and in our weekly email newsletters that go out to more than 10,000 subscribers. That's followed by our premium listing, which includes everything in that pro listing, but these jobs are also pinned to the top of all jobs, so they get more time to shine. You can get those for $129. We also have special discounted pricing for internships. Those are priced at $59. It's the cheapest offering that we have, and we created that because we know internships are valuable positions to offer, but it's hard to spend money on them like it is a true employment position. Like all other jobs, again, those live on the site for 45 days at a time. And finally, for those who are hiring for multiple roles, we also have frequency discounts on 5 jobs, 15 jobs, and our unlimited monthly subscription. You know, as I mentioned before, we work really hard to make things affordable for employers and also bring forward great applicants. If you're in the process of hiring, or you know you will be soon and are planning to use Of the West, you can go to our website, ofthewest.co, and list those jobs. Welcome to this week's episode of Leaders of the West. I know I say this every opening for the show, but I truly am so excited to have you back for another episode. You guys really are the best listeners, and I'm so very thankful for you. The other thing that I feel like I say all the time is how this is going to be a really unique episode. And I'm going to have to say it again today because this is going to be a very unique episode. So today we are sitting down with Janie Johnson. She is a Western sports broadcaster for the Cowboy Channel and RFDTV family of brands. And she's also the host of RanchHer. Earlier this summer, I had the pleasure and opportunity to have Janie and her entire crew come out to our ranch because I had been invited to be on an episode of RanchHer. And that episode actually airs tonight on RFD and on the Cowboy Channel Plus app. And so we are kind of giving you guys a little double header, if you will. So if you're going to watch RanchHer tonight, that is absolutely great. Thank you guys for doing that. But if you want to know more about Janie, the host of the show, this is what that episode is about. She has the coolest background and history. Her family are just like such legacy members of the Western sports industry and have done so much for the industry. And it is really inspiring to see how Janie has carved this incredibly unique path for herself within the industry. I don't even have words to say how cool Janie is. Many of you guys have probably watched her do sideline interviews at rodeo events or NFR. She really does thrive as the host of RanchHer. I can tell you we spent 2 full days with her and her crew. It was absolutely wonderful. They all kept us laughing. It was great, but I'm really excited to bring you guys the one and only Janie Johnson. Here we go. Well, Janie, this is a very unique episode. So you had the opportunity to come here as you guys were shooting an episode of RanchHer this past summer, which I am still just blown away that you guys had wanted me to be included. And I feel very, very humbled by that. And tonight is when the episode goes live. And as part of that, when you guys came, obviously we talked about me as a rancher and as a business owner and as a podcast host. And now you are on the podcast today and the tables have kind of been turned. We're going to flip things around here and you are in the hot seat and we are going to hear from you, who I also get to consider a dear friend of mine. So this is kind of like the perfect day for a double header, if you will.
Yeah, I feel like a whole new level of, I don't know if the word is sympathy for whenever the interview tables turn. It's a lot easier for me to ask questions than it is for me to answer them. So I feel your pain. You're not even at my house right now and all that. So yeah, thank you so much for welcoming us into your life, because we really do kind of show up in full form and just take over the whole day, basically, whenever the RanchHer crew and I show up. So it was a lot of fun. We had all kinds of adventures in a day and a half pretty well, and just kind of fit it all in, and just so impressed by you and your family and the business that you guys have created and the lifestyle. People follow you on social media and all that, and they get to feel, kind of how your life is. But I'm excited for people to see this episode because it's just a day in the life. It's just a very small piece of it. But I think people are going to really feel like they were there.
Oh, well, I will say you guys really do. You roll up in these 2 giant SUVs and they are packed to the rafters with equipment and snacks and all of the things that you guys need to basically survive while you're here. And yeah, there was definitely a lot of nerves, but it really, if somebody were to ask me like, well, how was it? It wasn't that bad. I mean, we'll see if I can stomach watching it tonight. Right? Like, because who really wants to watch themselves or listen to themselves, which obviously you on the interviewing side understand as well. But enough about me. We're here to talk about you. So you are the host of RanchHer, but this is not necessarily your first stint with the RFD family or with the Cowboy channel. So to kind of kick things off, can you give us a little bit more insight as to who you are, how you grew up, and how you first got interested in working in television?
Oh, it's such a long story, but I'm glad we've got a little time on the podcast. So I am from a ranch in Canyon, Texas, just outside of Amarillo, Texas. Kind of, we ranch near Paladuro Canyon, and then my family and I grew up kind of out towards Buffalo Lake. In between Canyon and Hereford is another area that I grew up in where I live. My family has been involved in rodeo for forever and ever. My dad was a world champion saddle bronc rider. My mom showed cutting horses, but they're originally from like the Las Vegas side of things. So they were big in the NFR and bringing the NFR to Las Vegas. Sorry, Oklahoma. And so just that's kind of the family connection in rodeo. Now, I was really lucky because my parents were amazing. They are amazing. They never tried to push rodeo. They never tried to push the Western lifestyle too hard. They kind of let me make my own decisions. I was a pretty wild, outgoing kid in terms of I did everything. I did every kind of sport, every kind of, we did the high school musicals. We did all just any kind of activity. I was class president. And so I did rodeo and I did participate in the ranch, but I was also very much in everything else. And it wasn't really until college that I fully kind of leaned into it because I thought I wanted to be a film producer and I wanted to be in movies. And so I thought that was my life direction. So I was looking at colleges in California for like film schools and all that. And my parents were like, okay, yeah. If that's what you want to do, great. We'll have to sell your barrel horse. And I had this barrel horse named Vegas. And he was just, I love that horse so much. And I was like, what do you mean? I can't take Vegas to Los Angeles? And they're like, absolutely not. Like,
no, Janie, that's not how life works.
Yeah, no. I sometimes get my head in the clouds a little bit on a lot of things about just trying to make things work, but that one didn't work out that way. So I was like, okay, well, I'll go to school in Texas. I still went to film school at the University of Texas at Austin, which is not a rodeo school and not Western in any way. And I know that very much so because I did go. And I college rodeoed as an independent. So they called me the lone longhorn. Yeah, because it was the only longhorn. I had to get like a vest made and I just showed up and ran barrels and then went back to class, went to my film school with all my hipster friends. And anyways, I just wanted to figure out a way to bridge the gap of my love of the Western industry, but still being connected through media. And I love TV and film and things like that. But that world didn't fully exist in the way that it does now at all. Rodeo was on CBS Sports with NFR. And then like a few of those Champions Challenges a year, but it wasn't a career option. I remember saying things to my parents like, oh, wouldn't it just be amazing if we could, go to these big rodeos like San Antonio and Reno and Houston and do interviews and like just really capture it for TV. And they're like, oh yeah, but that job doesn't exist. And so I ended up getting in with Jeff Metters. I called him in college about a project. I had to interview somebody in a position that I admired. Of course, how do you not admire Jeff Metters? He's an incredible on-air talent, but also an incredible production company owner. I mean, he just has done so much for our industry. And so I called him and he did an interview and was like, yeah, if you're ever in Tulsa, come by. Well, I drove to Tulsa, entered the rodeo there and like went to his office afterwards. And he's like, yeah, okay, you can come out do an internship. And so I went out there and interned at the NFR and just got Butch Knowles' timed event sheets and his coffee and just hung around and did anything I could do for anybody just to be there. I wanted to be out of the stands so bad, which sounds terrible. It's such a blessing to get to go to the NFR in any capacity, but I wanted to be a part of that production so bad. So that was such a big deal to just kind of be in the background. And that I told you this is a long story, Jessie. I'm just going on and on. And then I just got hired as an associate producer the next year and did some producing work and did my on-camera stuff. Kind of got started with junior high and high school finals. I wasn't ever planning on being on camera. That was definitely never the thing for me. I always wanted to be producer. And Jeff called me and was like, we really need somebody to go to junior high finals. You can surely do it. Like, you're super outgoing and all you do is talk. So surely you could do that. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try. And I really loved it. And I fell in love with the production side of it and just getting to be involved and hands-on. And yeah, it just grew from there. And then I worked for PBR and the Ride TV Velocity Tour for about a year and a half, 2 years. I did hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bull riding interviews on the Velocity Tour. And then Cowboy Channel started. And I had no idea what it was, but Jeff called and was like, should we try that? Like, do you want to try and come over and see if it works? And I just dove in head first. And everybody at Cowboy Channel dove in head first. That was the only way to do it. I mean, we did hundreds of rodeos, COVID hit, and the rest is history. So it's a very long story. And it's just, I think it's a kind of a testament to God having a plan for your life and a direction. And if you just kind of try to follow where you're supposed to be, you end up there. And, you know, I always give that horse a lot of credit because if I didn't have the barrel horse that I loved, I have no idea where I would be. Maybe I'd be in California trying to make a movie still. I have no idea, but sometimes your life happens and you just have to follow the roller coaster.
Oh, I love that. There's so many ways that we can go from this conversation, but I will say you kind of answered my next question just because at the time when you wanted to pursue your career, the Cowboy Channel didn't exist. And to be quite honest, I think we kind of forget about that.
Yeah,
the Cowboy Channel is
5 years.
Is a very young company. And even, you know, when Tiffany, Ashley, and I owned Western Runway, we had started talking with Raquel and Jenna and Holly, which those three were the Cowboy Channel team at that time. There wasn't necessarily a channel. There wasn't any kind of programming. Like, it was still, you know, we had the Stockyards location, but it was still kind of the seed of an idea. And it really is wild to see how when I went to a meeting at the Cowboy Channel studios in August of 2019 to where we are at the end of 2024, how that company has grown is absolutely wild.
Yeah, it still blows my mind. I feel like we've been around for 10 years. I feel like we've gone to so many rodeos. I feel like we've gone to enough rodeos to fit in to 10 years.
I believe you probably have.
Yeah, no, definitely did in the first couple of years because we went to every single rodeo ever the first 2 years. But it's amazing. And it's changed the industry in such a way that I don't think anybody really expected. I would say I didn't even expect it. I don't even know if Jeff expected it, you know, and Patrick had kind of a vision and then people went with it. But then the thing that was, I think, made the difference with Cowboy Channel is we 100% just rolled with whatever came our way on a daily basis and went to these rodeos and we'd get a call from a committee and we'd be like, yeah, we'll leave tomorrow and we'll go. Luckily, things have become more organized and more planned out and all that. But it was also in 2020 that this all happened. So everybody was kind of going on the day to day during that year. But yeah, it exists, this dream, this idea of me saying, oh, wouldn't that be amazing if we could just be at the finals at San Antonio? And I was like, now we're not just at the finals of San Antonio. I did 25 performances of San Antonio this last year.
Yeah, at this point, you want to get out of San Antonio because you've been there so long. But and then that applies to all those other rodeos, you know, be it Houston or Fort Worth. Like, you guys really are there for the long haul throughout the year. and really the growth and opportunity that has given rodeo and Western sports. It really is huge. So you mentioned that you, in your young career, have been able to work alongside people like Jeff Metters, Butch Knowles, Donnie Gay, Joe Beaver, our dear friend Katie Kaufman. Like, what feelings have you had sitting next to legends like that? Because you are a sponge. I know this about you. What have you been able to learn from them?
I know I do a lot of talking, but I love listening to those people talk. I love listening to other people talk. I mean, it really, the first one for me was our friend Katie Kaufman, because I was her AP, I think for 5 years. I'd have to check that, which is when I say it was her AP, when she was doing interviews at NFR, I had the headphones on connected to the truck, and I got to be like right next to her every single night at NFR, which was invaluable to me in terms of like a career for going and doing things, but also seeing how she carried herself and seeing how she thought of questions. And we became great friends. I just love and admire Katie so much in every aspect, from her interviews at NFR to, now her amazing career that she does in construction, which is random, but of course she's a superstar at it. She's a superstar at everything she does. And at being a mom, I mean, it just goes on and on. So that was really a neat opportunity for me to just soak it all in. Like you said, be a sponge. Now, Butch and Jeff, I could just go on and on about them for days. I hope they don't watch this or listen to this podcast, because I don't want them to get a big head, but they are my absolute heroes in life. And I love hanging out with them. This last year was a really special year for me with Butch and Jeff, because we've worked a lot more together on air, kind of the three of us on air with Calgary and Extreme Bronx and different things. And so I've gotten to kind of like, at Calgary, we go to breakfast every morning before the rodeo at our special breakfast place. And we go to Buffalo Wild Wings. And I was sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings with Butch and Jeff, and I thought, this is as good as it gets. Like, I'm a part of the club, because they remind me so much of just everything that rodeo and our industry is about. They have such high values. They're such good people, but they're also so funny. They're so good at what they do, but they're humble about it. I mean, I could go on and on about them. Whenever this happened this summer at Calgary, poor Jeff, he got sick and had to sit out of 2 performances at Calgary Stampede because he completely lost his voice. And they were like, who are we going to have host with Butch? And Jeff, he's always been such a great mentor to me. And he kind of stood up and was like, you guys should let Janie do it. Janie can handle it, which I was like, are you sure? I don't think that's a good idea, Jeff. And Jeff was like, no, you've got this. Like, you're in it. And if Jeff wouldn't have stepped up and spoken for me in that way, I don't know if I would have gotten picked. Maybe I would have. And so I got to sit there, and I was so scared until I sat next to Butch Knowles. And I was like, oh, this is actually the least scary thing ever, because Butch Knowles could carry the heaviest man in the world through a show. And then Joe B came and did the tie-down roping with Felipe that day. And Joe B's the same way. I mean, they are just so cool. I mean, they're just the coolest people in the world. And so getting to kind of soak in all that with them over the years, from getting his coffee and his timed event sheets to hosting or calling play-by-play at the Calgary Stampede, some of my favorite memories of my career forever. I'll go back and watch it when I'm sad one day and just be like, yes, I got to be there. And it was awesome.
I really have made it in life. Okay, but 2 things that I want to talk about from that is, 1, that shows a true testament to your success. They don't just let anybody co-host around at the Calgary Stampede. And the fact that you have put in the work and have shown that you have the skills and just the charisma and the knowledge, because it takes a lot of knowledge behind the athletes and the bucking stock and the event and rodeo as a whole to really carry that conversation. And like, you are the mouthpiece so that people at home really like feel like they're engaged and they are there. That is a huge responsibility. And the fact that you at such a young age have been able to accomplish that, and you are so well respected, because I have a feeling Jeff and Butch are probably not listening to this, but they would probably say the exact same things about you as you did about them. So first of all, I am just going to say, like, hats off to you, Janie Johnson Finley, because you really are a rock star. But 2, I want to highlight what you mentioned about you got Butch's coffee and his notes for the rodeo. You started from the bottom. And I will say that there is a generation that is not necessarily willing to work for what they want. They just think like, I'm going to come out of college or I'm going to come out of high school and I'm going to get my trade certificate and I'm going to go make $100,000 a year, or I'm going to go be in the C-suite. And that's not necessarily how it works. You really do have to put in the work. You have to put in the reps and put in the hours and start from the bottom to get to where you want to be.
Well, going back to what you said on it being a big opportunity, it was very short notice at Calgary Stampede. They did not have a lot of options on who to go with. And I was already there. So I do want to say that. But it's actually amazing that you bring that up, Jessie, because my great friend and a producer at Cowboy Channel, Carly Peterson, who has been on the show, she's fabulous in every way. We talk about this a lot. And of course, she gets we get a lot of people reaching out wanting to get in the industry, which is how you do it. You got to reach out to people. You got to figure out how to get in there. But it is kind of true. You have to start from the bottom. And honestly, I feel like you should want to start from the bottom. And it's something that I would never have been able to be where I am at if I didn't just sit back and observe from the lowest level of authority, watching other people do their job. I've seen a lot of people who get hired for a position that they don't have any experience in yet, and they're underwater. I mean, if I wouldn't have started at junior high finals, junior high finals is a big deal too. I mean, that was a big deal for me. I had to take that very seriously. But I'd watched people for years from the producer side before I even did junior high finals with 12-year-old, 13-year-old kids. If I would have been thrown from day one into a professional rodeo, I would have been so terrible. It would have been so bad. I needed to have those years of just trying to learn. And honestly, those are some of my best memories. My most favorite times is asking Butch if he needed anything, or going and helping someone fetch an interview and running around and because you don't have any pressure. Your only job is to just work and try to help other people be their best. And it's the best way to learn. I'm so thankful I didn't get thrown into those big jobs. And I think that young people wanting to get into the industry should want to start there and not have that pressure on them. And yeah, it's hard because you don't really get paid I mean, I was an intern. I didn't get paid anything. People get paid for internships now, which is amazing. So you have to kind of just be willing to work for free. Or, I mean, I would drive from Amarillo. I lived at my parents' house. I'd drive from Amarillo to go to the rodeo to just intern at, one of the Champions Challenge events, just to kind of learn and get to know the crew. And that is a sacrifice, but the time to do that is whenever you're young and you're not trying to support your family yet. You don't have kids, you don't have pressure in life. Your only job is to learn. And so that is kind of my advice to those young people is take the lowest job and do a great job at it, but also just enjoy it, because what is the point of life if not to enjoy every stage? I'll never go back to being an intern, hopefully, but it was some of the best memories. And it was just a really great opportunity. And if I didn't get that, I don't know. I don't think I would be the same. So that's my advice is, and take those low positions, but try to enjoy it and soak it all in.
Well, I think you were spot on. And actually, a friend and I just had this conversation on the phone this morning, and we were talking about somebody who had done just that. They had started at a company, like a company adjacent. They were a rep for that company at a different company. And then they moved over to the company and they had been a territory rep. And then they were the national sales manager. And then now they're the president of that company. And that person is so much more well respected because they have truly done every job and they have climbed every single rung of the ladder, so that when they are leading, they understand what life is like as the sales rep or the territory rep or the national sales manager or whatever that is, versus if you are the president of one company and you just come in as the president of another company. You can still be a great leader, but I think that you are more well respected by your peers and by your coworkers when you have done all there is to do and you've really plugged along in what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you make a lot of friendships. You just get so many different things to help you develop in your career. And I don't know. I still feel like there's more to grow and there's more to do. I still feel new, even though I'm not new anymore. This will be my 10th NFR. But exactly, the friendships that you make along the way are some of the most important things to me and something that I cherish the most. And those are coworker friendships. camera guys, audio guys, every single one of those people has been so important in every aspect. The job is important too, but life is still about relationships and building on things. And I think that's also an important aspect.
Well, I don't want to discount the fact that you aren't doing new things because you are. You have kind of transitioned from the role of full-time broadcasting to now you're the host of RanchHer, and you still obviously do NFR, Calgary Stampede, as you mentioned, but that's not your full-time. You also focus on RanchHer and hosting that show. So tell us about the differences between the two because they are very different. Hosting a show versus doing the broadcast of a rodeo. And how you've transitioned into that role. Is that something that you always kind of saw for yourself? Because again, taking interviews at San Antonio, like that was your dream. You had never dreamed of RanchHer or FarmHer or any of that type of TV show. So how has that transition been?
It's vastly different. Like you said, it's not even comparable. Live TV versus, stuff that you shoot months in advance and edit put together. It's a completely different ballgame. It was an adventure I wanted to definitely try whenever I got offered the opportunity to do RanchHer. I was a little unsure in the beginning, I'll be honest, because like I said, it's something I'd never done. I'm kind of sports minded. I love live TV. I love conversational stuff, but I also was super interested in it because I love learning about ranching. I love women in ranching. I love the whole concept of the show. And I love that they were going to kind of let me do what I wanted with it, where I could go out and ride. I'm like, I only want to do this show if I can go out and I can ride and I can participate and like really lean into these stories and what these women are doing. And so we just kind of had to just figure it out. They'd had other seasons of RanchHer, and I talked to Kirby about it. Kirby hosted RanchHer. Now she's the host of FarmHer, and kind of like what it looks like. And we had a great crew, and it was an adventure to do the RanchHer stories. It was every episode is so vastly different, but that's what I love about it is there's no box. Like ranchers don't fit in a box. There's so many different backgrounds and stories and personalities and families. I love the family aspect of the RanchHer series. I think that's such a big part. I love the people. That's why I've been in TV stuff for all this time is people in rodeo. I love the cowboys and the cowgirls and the contestants. And then you move it over to RanchHer and we actually get to dive in deeper than we do for sports TV. That's just quick interviews here or there or a feature. RanchHer, we get to really go into your life. When we show up to your house, like you said, we show up first thing in the morning and we are literally following you around for the entire day. And it's so fun. It's so fun to see other people's places and to see the country and to get to know people and share this community with the world because women in ranching and ranchers in general aren't really in a real way out in the media world. You have Yellowstone, sure. But those aren't real people. Those are fictional characters. Real people aren't out there like that. And people are fascinated by our industry. So it was great to get to share it. And it was a lot of fun, but it was not like rodeo sports broadcasting at all. So I was really lucky that Cowboy Channel and RFDTV allows me to do both because I really do love them both equally and I couldn't do one or the other if you made me choose. It would be really hard. I would feel a void in some way.
Well, and I think that's good too to have the variety. We all get stuck in our rut when we have to do the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, you can only interview Stetson Wright so many times without thinking of like, okay, well, what's a new question I can ask because I asked the same 10 questions, right? So I think that this then kind of gives you that different perspective.
Yeah, poor guy, Stetson Wright. I mean, gosh, I'd be like, hello, it's me again. He's like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. We've only talked like 200 times in the last month. Yeah, no, exactly. You got to have a variety. And, every ranch is vastly different. Like there's no two the same. And so that was fun. And yeah, I'm excited for people to see the second half of the season, see your episode tonight. I hope you are proud of it. I hope you're proud of the life that you live and that you've built and that your family. I mean, I just want people to be proud of their life. And a lot of times ranchers don't get celebrated in that way.
No, I definitely agree with that. I will say, so you guys came in June and then now it's airing in December. It was kind of I don't want to say struggle, but like we didn't want to be doing stuff so work focused that then you guys are like, if we have to move cows or all of this other stuff. But also, you don't want to be at a slow season when there's absolutely nothing to do and we kind of have to make work up. So there's that fine balance there. But I will say, you did bring this up. All ranches are different. So what is something that maybe you've learned about the industry or about a specific operation that you didn't know before that you just find now to be so fascinating? Obviously, I'm not going to make you pick a favorite episode because that's impossible. But
Thank you.
what is one of the most unique things that you've learned or maybe most memorable things that you've learned?
The whole season was a complete learning experience for me. And going into it, I knew that that was what I wanted it to be. I mean, people are like, oh, you grew up on a ranch. And yes, I did. We grew up on a small cattle ranch. But the reality is I haven't been in ranching personally, hands-on in years. I've been living in Fort Worth. I've been cowboy channeling. I've been doing rodeos. And so I would never claim to try to say that I'm a RanchHer. I mean, that wouldn't even be the term that I would use. I'd say, grew up on a ranch, but I'm kind of re-immersing myself in it. So I just want to learn as much as I possibly can. And boy, did I. I mean, I feel like when people ask like what episodes were big learning experiences, I always go to that first trip because you learn the most the very first trip because you're like, oh, wow, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, not only are you learning about ranches, you're kind of learning about your job. Like, okay, this is kind of how this is going to go.
Yeah, and it was kind of a revamp of RanchHer, so it's very different than the past season that's been done. And so the first big learning experience was probably Long Creek, Oregon, which is a tiny, I don't even know if you could call it a town, outside of Pendleton, south of Pendleton, a couple hours, I think 2.5 hours south of Pendleton, maybe a little further. And we were up in the mountains and, they put their cattle out on a permit in the summertime, and in the fall, they bring them off that permit land. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's makes sense. Pretty standard. And so we froze to death. It rained all day and then it hailed and then it dropped to freezing temperatures. And that these people are, ranchers are the hardest working people in the world. That. You talk about it. You see it. You read about it. La, la, la. But until you're like really in it, trying to capture it on an episode, you don't really know. I would say that. And so that was kind of a learning experience for me of like, oh, this is not going to be an easy show to bring to life. We're going to have to be up at 3 a.m. and we are going to be out till dark and we're going to be riding. And there's no way I'm ever going to quit before they do. And they don't quit. So, they didn't stop for lunch. They didn't anything. And it was truly amazing, but they had the best personalities, the best attitudes. And I feel like that's kind of how all ranchers are. Like they just don't have any quit. And it's different from, I think, even what I expected. I mean, people are hardworking, but I learned the extent of that, which was really amazing and really cool to see. But I'd say that was the first learning experience. But then the other side of it that really impressed me was how people have made a business out of ranching. Because everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm a rancher for a living. But that's not a simple concept. Ranching for a living is not an easy thing. So seeing how different ranches have managed to support their families and provide a livelihood that can be passed down to their families and like how everybody does it differently. From my ranching perspective, I thought has been the most fascinating and the most interesting of like, oh, wow. So this is how you guys have made this work. This is how you've, bettered your genetics or managed to have a better steak or managed to have a business or managed to make this work with, the ranch passed down to you. Or I just thought that was a big other side of things that from a ranching fan was the most fascinating to me. And I think people who are interested in that will really find it fascinating too.
I love the diversification because I think that is huge in what we do. And we do need to continue to diversify our operations and have multiple revenue streams and income streams because ranching or farming, whatever it may be, is very volatile. Mm-hmm. And so we know you can't put all your eggs in one basket. How many times have we said that? Well, the same applies in your business. You have to have multiple baskets and multiple eggs in each basket. So long are the days, I think, where a family has their one cow check or calf check every year because that's the day that they sell. Like that is not necessarily as feasible now as it once was. So I love seeing and having you guys share those just ways that other people in ranches have diversified their operation, whether it is to bring in more revenue or to allow the opportunity for more family members to come home and work on that operation. I think that that's really, really powerful. But on the topic of family, two things. You're adding to your family here at the end of the month. For the very first time, you and Jake are having a baby. So can you tell us, how are you feeling going into motherhood?
Oh my goodness, that's a deep question, Jessie. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good. It was an adjustment, more so of an adjustment than I expected. I don't know. Whenever you've never had a kid, I know you hear from, I've had lots of friends that have kids and babies, and it's hard, it's difficult, all the things, but until you're in it, you don't really know. So we shot your episode as well as several other episodes this summer when I was in the first trimester, and it was such a struggle, and I was so sick and all of the pregnancy symptoms. So that gave me a whole respect for ranching women, I will say, because they all do it. They all make it work. They all have a family. But it was so inspiring to me to be like, okay, you guys have your cattle and your horses in this business, but you've also had kids through it all and still kept it going. So that's been a big inspiration for me of, okay, if they did it, I can try to figure out how to do it too. But yeah, I'm feeling good. Jake and I are so excited, and it's a girl. So hopefully a future RanchHer, barrel racer, all the things, or whatever she wants to do. But we're just trying to work and finish out this year until the very last possible second. Going to have about 2 months after having the baby, and then we're going to hit the ground running a little bit. I'm still going to be going to some rodeos, still going to be working a little. I'm cutting back a lot on the travel because anybody who has a newborn, it's not that easy to travel, but you make it work. I'm just trying to take in as much advice as I can and have a good attitude and just accept that if the plan changes at any time, then I'll just have to adapt to it. I feel like the Cowboy Channel and all the changes in the industry have helped prepare me for this in the way that I'm ready to adapt to whatever comes.
You really are one of the most go with the flow women that I know, but not in the go with the flow dead fish way of thinking, but you adapt. You are very, very flexible. Okay, the plan has changed. That's totally fine. I am going to move forward with it. Have you always had that? Or is that something that you've kind of learned with just the, I don't want to say volatility, but the just varied life that the Cowboy Channel and RanchHer have presented themselves with?
No, I have not always been this way. And I feel like if my parents were watching this, they'd be like, oh, are you kidding me? Not at all. No, I was kind of a bit of an OCD, kind of uptight child, but also very, very much willing to dive headfirst into things. That's kind of always been my motto in life. When I was in high school, I just randomly decided to run for class president and learn to play the ukulele so I could give a speech in front of the whole class. Just random kind of things like that where I would always dive headfirst into what I was doing and then figure out the rest later. So I guess I have always been that way, but I don't know if behind the scenes I'm as laid back as what people maybe think. I feel it's not all that way. We all have it's not like it's a fake thing or anything like that, but it's just whenever I'm in it, I'm flowing with it and everything's fine and I don't get worked up and very laid back. But the planning process of getting to that point is maybe where I'm a little bit more stressed, a little more intense.
No, I can see that. It's kind of above water, the duck looks very calm. Below the water, totally different story. I think that that's a natural thing. That's not fake whatsoever. Okay.
Yeah, that's very much me. I'm a little duckling just paddling away. Once you catch that wave and you start floating, then everything's fine. But you got to paddle to that wave for a while.
You absolutely do. Okay, let's round out the rest of today with the rapid fire round. So what is the best piece of business or personal advice that you've ever been given?
I would say to just be kind and be nice to absolutely everybody in every aspect of your life, your job, because everybody is connected and those relationships are more important than you would think. Every relationship is important in your career. And there's nobody too high or too low, nobody beneath you. I would say that's my best advice that I ever got.
I'm going to amen to that. I think that that's very, very valuable. Okay, kind of similar, but yet different. If you could give people any words of wisdom and you knew that they would take them to heart, what would it be?
It is similar. I would say, I would share that same advice. Kindness really is the most important thing in every aspect of your life, from your family to your job, is just to be kind to everybody and just to enjoy and soak in every stage of it. Because even whenever you're on the top, it's not any better than being on the bottom. Every stage is equally as great.
Oh, I totally agree with that. If you could go to dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick?
Oh, that is a great question. I don't want to sound just really, I don't want to use the word cheesy, but I feel like you'd have to pick Jesus. I'd want to go to dinner with Jesus Christ and learn everything and hear all the stories and all the advice. There's just nobody in the world. There's nothing better.
We have gotten that answer a lot, and obviously, understandably so, right? He is
if you could pick anybody, that would have to be who you would have to pick.
Yes, I love that. Okay, well, I'll let you pick a dinner party. Who would you have at your dinner party, maybe? So we've saved a seat for Jesus. Who else is coming?
Yeah, I'm kind of a film nerd, so I feel like there's a few filmmaker people I would want to be there, and then also some rodeo people like Casey Tibbs would be cool to have there. I don't know. I'm gonna have to sit and put my table chart together on this one because I don't even know for sure. Maybe a few politicians, a few people that really know. Abraham Lincoln should be there. Probably put him on the list to just get his perspective on
the list.
How people do I get to have?
Oh, I love this. Kay, I think after this, we should get together and put together our seating chart and see who's going to come. Yeah. As long as I have a seat at the table, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, you have to come. You can come to my party.
Okay, what is a quote that you lead your life by?
I really think I have a quote up in my house, at my parents' house. It's "Fortune favors the brave." I just like that one. That one just keeps me going. Sometimes you just have to be brave in so many different situations. And usually whenever you go for it and you dive head in, that's whenever you get the best outcomes.
It almost always pays off. Almost always. 90% of the time it pays off. Okay, final question for you today. Let's talk about your favorite things. Do you have a favorite, maybe it's a podcast, book, a service, some kind of life hack, something you live by, swear by, have to have, that you think more people need to know about?
This is definitely for the women out there. Once I become a mom, I feel like I'm going to have a whole list of things, right? Because
yes, absolutely.
Then you are connected into so much more in the world. But in terms of work, traveling on camera, for the ladies out there, I have not curled my hair with a curling iron in 8 years. I use a Dyson Airwrap or the heatless curls, the little ones on Instagram that all the influencers do, I either do that. I don't even own a curling iron or a hairdryer.
Well, that makes sense because in one episode when you were out in a teepee, there's no way to have your curling
hair
iron.
Curled.
No.
And they say the Shark one is supposed to be half the price. My dad actually got me the Dyson Airwrap for Christmas because I just begged for it when it first came out 8 years ago. And I have not used heating. It's obviously air, it's hot, but that's my beauty hack. And it's also made my hair grow like crazy. And yeah, so that's a female beauty hack. If you're a male, just move on along.
Okay, well, that is good to know. Do you have so obviously Dyson Airwrap, I'll make sure that we include the link for that, but the heatless curls, is there a specific?
No, you can use Walmart. That's the silk tube and you just wrap it around. I think this is from a week ago on that. So yeah.
Jimmy's hair is looking straight fire right now. It really is. It's Farrah Fawcett, fluffy, beautiful curls. You would die over them if you guys could see them.
It simplifies your life. I'm all about try to simplify your life in any way that you can. And so that's the ticket right there.
I love it. Well, Janie, thank you so much. I was just going to have you, one, if people want to follow along with you, if they're not already, where can they find you online? And then where can they watch RanchHer?
You can watch RanchHer on RFDTV or the Cowboy Channel. or either one of the apps. Like if you have the RFDTV app or the Cowboy Channel Plus app, that's what a lot of, my friends and family are on Cowboy Channel Plus. All the episodes are on the app. You can go back and rewatch, or you can watch them live on the broadcast. They will be airing on Cowboy Channel at a later date. They start on RFD and then they go to Cowboy Channel after that. As for me, my Instagram handle is Calamity Janie, like Calamity Jane. It was a thing I did in high school, and I just refused to change it because I'm going to stick with that fun name forever and ever.
But I think it's perfect. It's totally you.
I'm kind of a cheesy person. So Calamity Janie, or I'm on Facebook, but I'm way more on Instagram. So give me a follow and see what we're up to, and follow I Am RanchHer, and just come hang out and experience all that there is.
Oh, Janie, this was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today, letting people learn more about you, and for, again, coming to our operation and choosing to highlight me and our family in tonight's RanchHer episode. We really are very, very humbled and honored, and I appreciate you beyond measure. So you guys tune in, share this episode with a friend, and as always, you can catch us back here next week. We'll see you later.
If you loved this episode, do us a favor and share it with someone else who might find just as much value in it as you did. We're on a mission to continue to grow and strengthen the future of agriculture and Western industries, and you spreading the word helps us make more of a positive impact. It also makes a big difference when you take a minute to go rate and review the show. We can't thank you enough for listening, for sharing, and for loving Ag and Western as much as we do. We'll see you back here for our next episode.